Mama, Daddy, baby sis, tell your cousins all about this. We just came to party down, killing every scene around. We just came to party, hardy, 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 hardy.
Hello guys and gals, me Muda Harn. Welcome to the Virus Investigation Saga. Now you might be wondering, Muda, what does Sonic the Hedgehog and Virus Investigations have in common? Well, you would be surprised. Now I've always been baffled by the Sonic fan community, the Sonic community in general. These lads and lasses are the greatest bunch of randoms I have ever seen. They will get themselves in almost everything imaginable. Now, the game that we're talking about in particular is a game that nobody can really play anymore, and it's a game that will always be heralded as a great historical feat of craziness. Now, before we go into this, we have to look at it from a more analytical light. So, in order to do that, we need to know what an OC is. So, does anybody in the audience know what an OC is? Raise your hands. If you don't know what an OC is, I don't fucking blame you. An OC, ladies and gentlemen, is an original character. In the Sonic fan community, this will often mean a recolor. If we go into Hazmat Area B, you'll have a million hits for Sonic OCs. If you look over here, you'll find that people have recolored and recreated the Sonic the Hedgehog sprites so much that they've created their own thing. Not only do you have demonic Sonic OCs, you have cute Sonic OCs, evil Sonic OCs, high school Sonic OCs, ultra furry mega porn Sonic OCs. You have a bunch of Sonic OCs, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this isn't intending to rip on anybody or anything, shape, and form. This is something you need to know before we go into it. Now, in the Sonic community, there's many prolific saints, I guess you could say. You've got your Chris Chans, you got your Sammy Classic Sonic fans. I might sound like I have a PhD in this kind of stuff, and the saddest part is I almost nearly do. Sonic fan games are a dime a dozen. There's a million out there. But there is one that has always gained critical acclaim within the Sonic fan community. This game is called Sonic Gather Battle. Now, unfortunately, I myself don't have any gameplay to share to you, but I did find a game called Sonic the Fighters, a game that I didn't exactly think existed. So whenever I reference this game, and I'm talking about the gameplay, I guess the closest thing I'll reference is that. One of the Sonic battle games, anything of the sort, it'll be a bunch of gameplay that I'll dig out. It's really to make a point about what the game really is. And from what it is, it's a pretty damn good fighting game. So, what does a Sonic fan game, therefore, have to do with Virus Investigations? Well, what if I told you this game would not only prevent you stealing OCs by preventing you from using cheat engines or anything of the sort, but also report your browser history and your very personal details off to a hidden server somewhere in the world for the creator to blackmail you potentially with? Does it sound like it's out of a fucking crazy nuthouse conspiracy? Yes, but did it actually happen? You bet your fucking ass it did, ladies and gentlemen. Now, unlike last week's virus investigation that we did, WannaCry, which basically had locked down a computer, this one doesn't necessarily lock your computer down. This is a game DRM. A game DRM specifically created, specifically handcrafted, one that didn't show up in virus circles around the world or scans or anything because it was so freshly new from this developer. Now over here you have a Discord post from a very popular Discord post that basically summarizes the entire situation. Over here, you have an individual called Listar basically talking about Sonic Gather Battle, how the game is actually pretty damn decent. Now, when people complained about Sonic Mania and Denuvo is a third-party DRM that a lot of games use nowadays to prevent piracy day one. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, Denuvo has done some pretty damn good job preventing piracy, but a lot of people don't like it because of some really off-color things it has to do, such as decryption on the fly, which can really attack your drives or anything of the sort. I haven't done any analysis myself, but a lot of people just don't like Denuvo, and it's just kind of been that way. So now over here you have an individual going, oh man, and then Listar says, let me explain it a bit. There is a DRM that protects the game. It can be triggered in various ways, either a bug or if you try to run Cheat Engine. If you run Cheat Engine, it will kill its process. Now again, I couldn't actually test this and we'll get to it later. Let's just finish this post. It basically makes a blue background, black tiles, and red invincible ghosts. It is not playable. It is unplayable. Uninstalling and reinstalling won't work, by the way. So here you have normal gameplay. I know it's a little low resolution, but it's kind of all we have to deal with at this point. In normal resolution, it's a game that is your standard fighting game. I believe the assets and sprites on this are actually from a Game Boy Advance version of, I think it's Sonic Battle, released in 2003. Beyond that, this game actually runs on an engine called Little Fighters 2. Not really relevant, but that's kind of what the gameplay is from, so if anybody can sort of figure out what this is, that'll at least assist you. Now, after you've run Cheat Engine, and for those of you who don't know, Cheat Engine is a program that you can use to really get down to the finite memory addresses of a game. So let's assume you're playing something like Shadow of War and you hated the loot boxes. You could theoretically change the amount of money you had in the game using Cheat Engine and buy all the loot boxes you wanted. You can do that with a lot of games that calculate things client-side. If a game is calculating your money and stuff server-side, you're fucked. I'm sorry to say. It's not going to help you. So anyways, that's what Cheat Engine is for those who are unaware. Now, once you get hacked, this is what the game becomes. You see the black tiles, you see the blue backgrounds, red ghost protection. If you go into the registry managed from Windows and try to remove stuff, and for those of you who don't know, Windows has a registry, so if you just type in Windows, if you just type in regedit, I guess you could say, let me just pull that up for you guys, you'll find out that you can actually get down and delete things out of your registry. This is a registry editor, so if a program has its hook sunk into your computer, you could theoretically just delete its registry keys and basically start that computer up from a fresh, new slate. So that's about all you need to know. If you start that up, it'll run into the super protection, where you see these red eyes, you see ghosts. It basically looks like it's something out of Majora's Mask. The background turns red. These creepy eyes appear, static on screen, creepy Sonic CD boss theme, and you can't even pause the game to exit. If you uninstall and reinstall, though, you'd go back to the red ghost glitches. What I've learned, though, is you can share your save file from one computer to another. Of course, there's probably DRM tied to like hardware tags, Windows ID, OEM flags. It will cause the red ghost protection to the other PC you moved it to, and even worse. When the game is installed, you can't even type the name of the game followed by cheat, hack, mod on the likes on Google. It will automatically close your web browser, and I believe this is actually uniform across anything. So if you use like Microsoft Edge, you use Firefox, Google Chrome, Opera, whatever, Safari, it'll not work. It'll just crash. It'll activate the protection. So this is the interesting part. How do you remove the protection, you may ask? You have to talk to a specific person. Prove him that you are innocent and it was a glitch. Then he will talk with the creator of the game, which will whitelist your PC again. Now, of course, people are going, what the fuck at this point, and that's very true. This is some weird conspiracy theory shit that we're noticing. The creator of the fan game can have your PC in his little database, and even have a check to see what you are searching on Google, and people were complaining about Denuvo and Sonic Mania. It seriously sounds more like ransomware than a fan game. I mean, like, instead of payment, you give your computer's info to this guy, which isn't right. So basically, what happens in the game is if you start doing these advanced level tricks, like they were just talking about by going into registry editors, cheat engineering, it'll basically lock your computer down, and basically what'll happen is it will launch a web browser window, what's my IP, package the IP information of your computer up, and send it off to the individual. Now, this is actually so bad that it'll actually go through a bunch of checks. And this is what we'll get to, the actual analysis phase. While I would have loved to do an analysis for this game, it's tied to the internet. Basically, at this point, all copies of this game, I believe, are unplayable. You can't launch the game. It needed internet access to basically contact the global server and start the game up. Or at least that's what I believe is the case. Now, this game has a lot of protections built into it. Let's go into what they are. Now, I have some analysis footage that I'll be showing you guys, and I'll basically show it as is relevant to the commentary. Now, number one thing, this game will not run on a virtual machine. It refuses to run on a VM. And this isn't out of the ordinary. When you're doing a lot of these sandboxing practices to check for malware or doing malware analysis, as we call it, anti-VM tricks are a dime a dozen. There's a million out there. And I tried to circumvent this through many different ways. I tried using different VM softwares. That really doesn't help. I tried using the VM software without their additional packages that you need installed. For VMware, you can use tools. For VirtualBox, there's guest tools editions. I didn't use those. Didn't really help. I tried going back to older versions of Windows, down all the way to Vista. I wasn't going to touch XP 64-bit. It did not work. Nothing helped. At the end of the day, this is a game that refuses to run on a virtual machine. That shouldn't really shock you, because a lot of malware, a lot of anti-VM malware does exist. It will just refuse to run, so you cannot analyze it. So what did I do next? I got myself a Junker computer. In the Junker computer, I went through many routes to run the program. And that's how I figured out it wouldn't run if you're not connected. If you're connected to the internet, it would lock you down. That's how I figured it out. The developer locks you down from playing the game. Nobody can touch this. The actual malware issues then show up where you're trying to run it into things like Sandboxy. If Virtual Machine fails, I go to Sandboxy. For those of you who don't know what Sandboxy is, it is basically a program that you use to sandbox all of your create a sandbox on your computer. So what does that mean? A sandbox essentially will allow you to isolate a portion of your computer. So for example, let's say you create something in a sandbox and you install a program to the sandbox. Let's assume you put a file on your desktop, right? Let's call it, satan.txt. If you put it into your sandbox's desktop by opening your sandbox's file manager or whatnot, that will not show up to the host computer. You can't see it on your desktop, but the file exists in a sandbox. So when you install programs to the sandbox, the host computer doesn't see anything of it. Think about a computer within a computer. It's sort of a weird situation going on. Now, this isn't the perfect thing to do. You can't do a lot of driver call stuff. There's a lot of things you still can't test with Sandboxy. But it is a good solution if you couldn't run a VM or you're just running a program you want to isolate. There are a million things that Sandboxy can be used for, and when I tried to run this game, it just wouldn't run at all. So every single method I tried to launch the game even wasn't going to help me. I had to actually compromise the computer and then reset it and redo everything, zero it out entirely once I ran the game, and I found out that you couldn't run the game at all. So there is no analysis that can happen for this title. So ultimately, this virus, essentially what it does is it will copy your IP address and send it off to this person. So it actually does this in a very dirty manner. Let's assume that you're using a VPN. Even if you reboot your computer, the first thing that it will do is it will launch this program. And this program will launch, it will send your IP address before you can even start VPN applications or anything. So you're kind of fucked once you run this application. Now, there are already red flags to this fan game that I found even before I got into it. Number one, it needs administrator privileges. Never give a program administrator privileges. Never. It is the worst thing you can do. It's like literally handing somebody the keys to your fucking house, your car, your very vital possessions, and letting them do whatever they want with it. Don't give them administrator privileges. The other thing it does is look for raw disk sectors. Again, it's a thing that it doesn't really need to do. There's no reason a program should be given this kind of stuff. I would literally only give this stuff to a program that I would have made, a program that I know the inner workings of. Not Sonic Gather Battle, not some Sonic fan cuck that decided to get mad because somebody stole his OCs. And this is really what it comes down to. If you're using the entire logic behind this is the creator didn't want people stealing their OCs. So if you were trying to use Cheat Engine or look into the inner workings of the game, that was literally what it came down to. This individual, this cuck, didn't want you to see the OCs that they had made. Now, what this is an illegal game. This is illegal malware. This is illegal, period. If this person is within US jurisdiction, the FBI can have a fucking field day with this asshole. So the crime that has been committed is something that shouldn't really be overlooked. This is a criminal offense. Will this be tried upon, whatever? Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. That's for a whole different video. But the point still stands, is stealing this motherfucker's OCs is what caused many computers to be blacklisted, their information being sent, their browser history being sent to some cuck on some part of the planet that we don't know, potentially using it to blackmail. It could be whatever kind of data. It could be password data stored. It could be very personal stuff that has been sent over to the individual. So point being is, the Sonic community is fucking mental. The game literally had DRM, a good fan game that would send your private information off to an individual if you happen to apparently steal OCs, which is a bullshit argument in the first place, because most of the stuff is stolen from a Game Boy Advance game anyways. So point being is, that's really all I had to cover with this virus investigation. Again, the analysis phase really couldn't be done. But I guess what this video can show you is the caveats of analysis too. There's sometimes ways that you may not be able to pass it. If the game requires internet access, program requires it, and the developer has decided to cuck you out of it, well, good luck. Reverse engineer that shit, motherfucker. But ladies and gentlemen, That was Sonic Gather Battle, a game that has gotten infamous in the Sonic fan game community and probably should be infamous in the malware community too. This is some fucked up piece of shit, all because somebody's trying to steal OCs, or at least that's what the developer believes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am cleaning out all these computers.